It was one of those Christmas dinners where everything finally felt normal again. My daughter helped me to set the table. Everyone gathered. But have you ever noticed when someone's quietly being left out?
Ava was standing on a chair beside me, carefully placing napkins like they were part of something important. She kept smoothing the edges, lining them up just right, then looking at me for approval with that small, hopeful smile. The kitchen smelled like cinnamon and roasted chicken, and for a moment, everything felt settled. It was Christmas dinner at my place. My parents were already at the table, my mom chatting softly, my dad across from her, and my brother Daniel holding his newborn while his wife hovered close. Everyone was finally together. Ava had been excited about this all week. She wanted everything to be perfect for them. And for a while, it was. My dad was in a good mood, talking, even laughing. The kind of night you convince yourself might be different this time. But then I noticed something small. Every time Ava tried to get his attention, he didn't really look at her. And when I handed him her plate, he paused. He didn't say anything right away, just held the plate in his hands like he was deciding something, like it mattered more than it should have. Then he gave a short nod, almost to himself, and set it down on the table, but not in front of her. I felt it then. Not a full thought, not even something I could explain, just a small, tight feeling in my chest, like something had shifted half an inch out of place. Ava, sweetheart, go sit, I said gently, brushing it off before it could turn into something bigger. Dinner's ready. She climbed down quickly, smoothing her dress like she'd seen me do 100 times before, then walked to her chair with that same careful attention she gave everything. She sat up straight, hands folded in her lap for a second before reaching for her cup. Thank you for helping me, I added as I passed by her. She beamed at that, quiet but real. At the table, my mom was already telling a story about something that happened at church, her voice light and familiar. Carla leaned in, smiling politely, rocking the baby gently in her arms, while Daniel kept glancing down like he couldn't believe he was holding something that small. My dad, he was focused there, completely. Every little movement the baby made seemed to pull his attention tighter. He leaned closer, smiled wider, spoke softer. Look at that, he said at one point, almost under his breath. Strong grip already. It wasn't wrong, it just didn't leave much room for anything else. I moved around the table, setting down the rest of the plates, making sure everyone had what they needed. When I reached Ava, she looked up at me, her voice small but steady. It smells really good. It is, I said. You're gonna love it. She nodded, then glanced past me toward my dad again. He didn't notice. Or if he did, he didn't respond. I straightened up slowly, turning back toward the kitchen for the last dish, trying to ignore the way the room suddenly felt a little uneven. Like the warmth hadn't disappeared, just shifted somewhere else. Behind me, I heard my dad laugh again, louder this time. But it wasn't at anything Ava said, and when I came back to the table, I realized something else. Everyone had a plate in front of them, except her. At first, I told myself I was imagining it. I picked up the serving spoon again, like maybe I just missed something, like her plate had been set somewhere else by accident. But no, every place at the table was filled. My mom had hers. Carla balanced hers carefully while adjusting the baby. Daniel was already reaching for a roll. Ava sat there quietly, hands folded again, like she was waiting for permission no one had given her. Did I miss yours? I asked, keeping my voice light as I stepped back toward the counter. She shook her head quickly. No, it's okay. That answer didn't sit right. I turned to my dad. Did you move her plate? He didn't look at me right away. He was still watching the baby, like the question had to travel further to reach him. Hmm? He said, distracted. Ava's plate, I repeated. It was right here. Oh. He finally glanced over, brief, almost dismissive. I set it aside for a second. For what? He didn't answer immediately, just reached for his glass, took a slow sip, then set it down like everything was completely normal. Around the table, no one said anything. Not my mom, not Daniel, not even Carla. And that silence felt louder than anything. Then my dad reached forward again, this time toward the food, and said, almost casually, "Hang on a minute." And something in his tone made my stomach drop. And then he said it. Before I could move, before I could even process why he'd taken her plate in the first place, my dad reached across the table, picked it up fully this time, and pulled it toward himself. Not to fix anything, not to hand it back, to take it. "That's for my real grandchild. She can wait." The words didn't land all at once. They hit in pieces, like my brain was trying to slow them down before they made sense. No one moved. Ava's hands stayed exactly where they were, hovering just above the table, like she was still expecting something to be placed there. Her eyes dropped, not fast, just slowly, like she already understood more than she should have. I can wait," she whispered.
He actually took her plate and said that out loud, and no one stepping in. Why is she the one saying it's okay?
That broke whatever hesitation I had left. I looked around the table waiting just for one person to react. My mom stared down at her plate, gripping her fork too tightly. Daniel shifted in his chair, jaw tightening, but he didn't say a word. Carla adjusted the baby, eyes fixed anywhere but here. No one stopped him. And my dad? He was already reaching for another dish, like nothing had happened. Like taking food away from a 9-year-old in front of everyone was just a decision. Something inside me went completely still. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just looked at him and spoke. 4 words. And the moment they left my mouth, everything changed. For a second, nothing moved. Then the fork hit the plate. My mom's hand had gone slack, the metal clattering louder than it should have in a room that quiet. She didn't even try to pick it up. She was staring at me wide-eyed, like she hadn't expected me to say it out loud. My dad froze. Not the kind of pause where someone's thinking of a comeback. This was different. His shoulders stiffened, his grip tightening slightly around the edge of the table. For the first time that night, he wasn't looking at the baby. He was looking at me. Ava shifted beside me, her chair creaking softly. I felt her hand brush against mine, hesitant at first, like she wasn't sure if she was allowed to reach for me right now. I turned my palm over and held on to her. "Lena," my mom said under her breath, almost like a warning, or maybe a plea. Daniel leaned back in his chair, exhaling through his nose, eyes flicking between us like he was trying to calculate how this would end without getting involved. Carla stayed still, rocking the baby in small, automatic motions. No one interrupted. No one corrected him. And that silence, the same silence from before, felt different now. Heavier, like it was starting to collapse under its own weight. My dad opened his mouth, stopped, swallowed whatever he was about to say, because for the first time he didn't sound in control of this anymore. Then I said it again, calm, steady, without raising my voice. "Then we're leaving. Now." No one mistook it for a threat. There was nothing emotional in it, no anger, no shaking, just a decision that had already been made. Ava's fingers tightened around mine. My chair slid back softly as I stood, the sound cutting through the silence in a way no one could ignore. I reached for her coat draped over the back of the chair, helping her into it like this was any other night, like we were simply heading home after dinner. "Lena, don't," my mom started, her voice breaking halfway through. I didn't look at her. Behind me, my dad finally moved. You're overreacting, he said, but it didn't carry the same weight as before. It sounded thinner, uncertain. I turned just enough to face him. Over a plate? I asked quietly. He hesitated, and that hesitation said more than anything else could have. Because it wasn't about the plate. It never was. You've been doing this, I continued, still even, still controlled, just quieter. No one interrupted me now. Not my mom, not Daniel, not anyone. You don't get to decide who counts, I said. Not for her. Ava leaned closer into me at that, her face pressed into my side. My dad opened his mouth again, like he wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Whatever authority he thought he had in this room, it was gone. So I didn't wait. I took Ava's hand and walked to the door. No one followed. No one stopped us. The cold air outside hit sharper than I expected, but Ava didn't complain. She just held on to me as we walked to the car, quiet in a way that felt too old for 9 years old. Later that night, we sat at our kitchen counter, sharing leftovers I'd packed away earlier. No decorations, no noise, just the two of us. She poked at her food for a second, then looked up at me. Did I do something wrong? The question landed soft, but it carried everything. I shook my head immediately. No, never. She held my gaze for a moment, like she needed to be sure. Then she nodded once and took another bite. That was enough. Across town, that dinner probably continued in some broken, quiet way. Maybe excuses were made. Maybe nothing was said at all. But it didn't matter anymore. Because that night didn't take something from my daughter. It showed me exactly who was willing to. And I made sure they never got the chance again.
It's strange how a single moment at a table can show you where you really stand in someone's life. Makes you wonder, would anyone have said something if you didn't?